It is the day after the final home match of the season. This is Inside LAFC, the Max and Vince podcast. Vince LaRosa, good day, sir.
I like your jersey today, Max.
Santos Futebol Clube.
Yeah. Greatest player ever for Santos. This is a tough one.
No,
because
it's not.
What do you mean? It's modern versus...
It's Pele. It's not even close.
Neymar.
Is Neymar the best player ever for Santos?
Do you think Pele could play in the modern game?
Let's not start that.
Okay. But how many people have actually seen...
Yes, he could.
How many people have actually seen Pele play? Like 2.
I haven't.
But all of us still think he's the greatest player of all time.
Look, I go by, when it comes to the greatest player of all time, I go by what I saw, and I'm going to date myself, but that's why Diego Maradona is the
I believe that Maradona is the greatest player of all time.
He did stuff that I haven't seen since.
And Pele is like probably a distant 5th.
Wow. Should I take this jersey off and do it without a shirt for the rest of this podcast? Here we go, guys.
Yeah.
This is for you, Pele.
Because it's 2 Argentines at the top. It's Diego and then Messi. And then you could start maybe throwing in a Cruyff in there.
Yeah, the Dutch kind of slip in there.
And so now we've already
this is a very
now we've
hot
already
take.
filled in 3.
Probably a Brazilian in there, no?
I mean, who else from Brazil? It's interesting because those Brazil teams were teams.
They were.
They really were.
Obviously, the '94 team, which had perfect players at every position.
You know, if he never had the injuries he had, the original Ronaldo is easily.
I think you put him there just because he.
I would almost put him there. I mean, look, my favorite player of all time is Roberto Baggio, and he's similar in that regard. I saw a video the other day. There's some great follows on Twitter that are like 90s football, and it's kind of fun to like watch the whole thing. There's this video of Baggio sitting in the dressing room with teammates, and he goes like this, and you could see something. I don't know what it is in his knee, but he pushes it from one side and then pushes it back.
It's a loose piece of body part.
Terrifying.
Who knows what they've gone through, especially Baggio, who's been kicked to death for so long. One of the greats, too. Got to meet him once through Christopher Sullivan.
Wow.
Who is super tight
Sully's
with Roberto Baggio.
What?
And I know Christopher Sullivan knows him. And then Joe McGinnis, the late, I believe.
Late Joe McGinnis.
Who invited
Pastel
me
di
down.
Sangro, great book. I read it as a young man, which was probably not good because there's a lot of stuff in there I shouldn't have read.
Joe McGinnis took a liking to me, so I went down to Orange County a couple times, and then they have the Buddhist university there, which was started by Baggio, and I met him for an instant when he was down there. Wow. So it was very cool.
I'm pretty jealous.
I was jealous of myself.
Yeah.
So I was with Joe McGinnis, and Baggio loved Joe McGinnis because the books, so they're all connected. So it was just a great moment in time. This is when I've started in this industry. It was quite an introduction.
I'm as jealous now as the people that are like, yeah, Del Piero's at the bank all the time. You just never see him. I'm like, thanks a lot. That and the other time that Jeff Parrish was like, hey, just took a picture with Kevin De Bruyne. I was like, where was he? He goes, oh, he was standing right behind you. You didn't know?
By,
I was like,
he walked.
You're kidding me.
I remember that
Kevin
day.
De Bruyne.
He walked right by you, and you didn't know it was him because he was wearing some beat up old T-shirt and I think sandals, slips.
Yeah.
So you would never have guessed it was him. Wasn't really dressed for a night out. Real quickly, I don't want to sell out my wife. I love her. She's the greatest thing that's ever happened to me. But when I had this shirt and I was leaving, she said, are you sure you're going to wear that referee shirt out?
Same
and
thing.
I could see Pele.
Being a Juventus fan, I get the same, like, is that a referee jersey? Come on.
The Caio Jorge is another great Santos talent now.
Juventus player now.
We'll see. But Brazilian football is blowing up. I mean, it used to be Argentina, Brazil. Brazil is heads and shoulders. Argentina, and I'd say Ecuador is creeping up to Argentina because of money and so forth. But Flamengo's a super team. They just signed David Luiz. Atlético Mineiro, which is in Belo Horizonte. I'm going to be a Portuguese Derek Ray here.
Because there's all the...
No, they have Hulk.
No, I get that they have these players, but is the money real? Or
I don't know if it's real.
Is it smoke and mirrors? Brazil does this sometimes.
But the teams are sick. Palmeiras. So
there's kind of a renaissance of maybe started by Gabigol staying at Flamengo?
Gabigol staying, and Palmeiras Flamengo. That's coming up this month, the Libertadores final. And
that's going to be a game.
Sudamericana final is all Brazilian too.
Also?
Atlético Paranaense and Red Bull Bragantino.
Yeah.
Red Bull.
Your Portuguese is coming along there.
I just like to...
You just like to throw it around?
Lay it thick.
Some would say you're the Derek Ray of Portuguese.
Well, Derek Ray would go, if you were the Derek Ray of Portugal, you would say, this is a favela jazal, which in English means, he does that a lot in the broadcast, which is good, but after a while you're like, I'm not going to use these terms, so I don't need all of them at once.
What does it mean?
I don't know.
Oh, okay. Well, good.
I just made that up.
It's actually a good segue talking about like up-and-coming South American, Central American countries and soccer, because I had my first person recognize me. in a random place. I was in the supermarket. I was at my local Ralph's.
Oh, you told me about this.
And I was just walking. I was just walking, filling up my basket, and somebody goes, "Vince," and I look, and I'm like, "Yeah."
You were terrified.
You're Vince? Yeah. I was like, "Oh no, oh no." Someone's gonna square up on me now.
Can I give you
right?
an
You told me about this. You suck. I hate you.
Gonna give you a court summons.
And I go, yeah. I go, who? He goes, oh my god, I can't believe I'm meeting you. I'm like, what is going on here? Like, I kept saying, but who are you? Because I'm like, do I know? And it was an LAFC fan, Pookie Gomez, great name. We talked about Venezuelan football. He's a former
Coming up.
minor
Better.
league. Well, so he told me
It was non-existent for so many years.
Well, yeah.
It was a baseball country.
he paid me the greatest compliment, which I hear sometimes about our podcast is I did not know a lot about football. I listen to your podcast and I learn about football, which is what you and I really like to do more than anything. I mean, besides going off on tangents about movies, music, all kinds of other, derelict stuff that we shouldn't talk about. We like doing
hockey,
that. Yeah, like hockey talk. There you go. That's your one. That's your one reference.
Are the Florida Panthers still unbeaten, Jason? All right.
Yeah.
Who cares about the New York Rangers?
Yeah. No one's cared about the Rangers since Mark Messier left.
I could say that without worrying about getting in a fist fight because I'm not even in New York.
Actually, I'll take that back. Since Rick Nash left. Yeah. Rick Nash.
8-0-1, the Florida Panthers.
Great.
Still playing in front of 8 people in Fort Lauderdale.
Behind the great goalkeeping of John Van Beesbrook.
The Bees.
No? Okay. Roberto Lamont.
No.
Okay. Can I get back to the story?
It's a Russian dude now.
So I was talking to Pookie, and he was telling me that he's a former minor league baseball player. So in Venezuela, baseball's huge. But I was saying, Max brings up that Venezuela's coming up. He said, yeah, you know how I know? They've converted one of the great baseball stadiums in Venezuela to a soccer stadium.
Sacrilege.
He's like, that's how you know. And I'm like, wow. So just talking with him, and then he told me about his son who is black and gold through and through, young kid. He said it's the one thing that he loves and really responds to, which was this is one of the tear up moments.
Oh, you deserve that, man. There's a lot more people out there, and we see at the stadium. And
I also had a comment on my Instagram this morning. Where's the podcast? I'm waiting for the podcast. I was like, we wanted
great sign. Even if it's one person, it's a good sign.
Yeah, we wanted to try to do it. We did it specifically on this day because we felt if we did it on Monday, we'd basically be previewing a game that would then disappear, and then you guys wouldn't have this great talk about this crazy match that we had that fell short in some regards, but it was a great game, right?
Yes, and we should say for maybe our fourth straight podcast, we haven't had to come out here and give
Not yet.
Spiritu Santi.
Next season,
we don't cast last rites on LAFC season yet. They're still alive.
Well, season within the season. Remember, we were like, could we go undefeated?
Anytime?
And we're like, I was like, nah, you're not going to go undefeated. You get 4 wins, a draw, and a loss. We are undefeated. We have 11 points from our season within the season.
3 wins, 2 ties.
Right.
If you said that at the beginning, would you have said, I'll take it?
Well, so going into this, we were talking about
5-6 games.
We weren't. We were trying to get to a points total within the season, and then a grand points total, which was 48, which seems to be the magic number in MLS with this many teams. We win. We get 48. Yes, we need some help. Should we go over all the?
Yes, I want to. Before we get in there, I do want to say because we like to go in some kind of chronological order.
Oh no, we don't.
I just want to say
Max and I talk about what we're going to talk about, and then he says something, and then I go off racing, and then he has to catch me, and we're all.
This is important.
Yeah.
And I said it during the broadcast, which I was joined by Will Ferrell. I've been bugging for 4 years, and I had a good time.
Finally happened.
He had a couple humdingers.
Did.
The Jacob Imrani signage was very good, and then also Vanni Sartini. He said he looked like Rowan Atkinson. I've looked at Vanni Sartini. He looks like Rowan Atkinson a little bit.
I love that he pointed out the Jacob Imrani because the other day I was like, man, he's really getting his buck's worth for this LAFC
Jacob
stuff.
Imrani is there all the time at the games.
I know.
And he's the last one to leave. So he is a legit fan. He always brings a big group of people. So, hey, Jacob Imrani.
He turns off the lights on the way out.
I was looking, we're wrapping our show. Jacob Imrani's still here.
He's usually over where a lot of our 110 football people sit.
Yes, he was playing the fireworks. Can you sing the jingle? Injuries called Jacob.
Oh no! Now it's gonna be stuck in my head.
Jacob.
There's so many jingles from like Southern California, like not just jingles but sayings like the mattress guy. You're killing me, Larry.
Go see Cal back in the day.
Go see Cal.
So I did want to say this about the tifo, the 3252 knocking it out of the park again with the Dia de los Muertos tifo. And
The tifo and the altar, which was
and the altar and the beautiful music, and it just really made you stop in where you were to pay attention. And that was a beautiful moment. And we know the 3252 has lost a lot the last 2 years. And
That was-
I'm getting a little.
So we were doing post game during the kind of fireworks show, and they did do a tribute. And I happened to look that direction toward the jumbo screen was over Haley Graves' shoulder, who was hosting, and it was right when that happened, and it was like gut punch. And I was like, like the
hard.
toughest time to look over, and it just everything kind of came. It just all comes flowing back, like just wave over you just to see that. But
Let me ask you a
it was
question.
nice that they did that.
Yes, let me ask you a question. When you die, what is the one thing before you die you would want?
Total consciousness.
To be remembered, right?
Yes.
For some people, well, there's one person with 1,000 people that when you're gone for a year or 2 years, people will remember you. That's what happened there. And Dia de los Muertos is something I would love. It's a Mexican tradition, but I wish we did in the U.S. because we can all relate to it. Just for a day, take out a photo of someone you lost recently, 20 years ago.
Let's be fair. Halloween's gotten out of control.
Halloween, make it part of Halloween. Just a part
What
of the
is technically part of Halloween? It's what.
Halloween's great, man. It's great family time without the
Is it, though?
obligations of Thanksgiving and Christmas with shopping and.
But that's what I'm saying. It's gone too far. It's not about families anymore.
It is about families. I disagree. But you do the Dia de los Muertos, and then you can remember those folks. I think that's what I would want.
Yes.
So that's all I want to say. We can get to the game now. There's a lot to talk.
That and my ashes scattered at all the great pitches across the world.
A little bit here.
Yeah, just doot, doot. Yeah, even if you get to the point where you're like, is this still Vince?
If you did that at Old Trafford, they would come out and sweep your ashes off to the sideline.
Probably.
This is holy ground,
Hey.
not your holy ground.
As long as it's Ole doing it as the janitor. I'm not even a United fan. And I'm just,
I got it. CBS interviewed Ole Gunnar Solskjaer after the tie with Atalanta, and then Kate Abdo had a good interview. And Ole Gunnar Solskjaer goes, I thought both those Atalanta goals were pretty close to being offside. And then Keith Costigan
perfect.
goes,
Yeah, you know what that's called? Onside. Keith was perfect. As a Liverpool fan, too. I mean, way to really tee up the Liverpool fan.
he goes, little close to being offside, a.k.a. onside.
Yeah. Literally the point of the game.
Keith, that was a humdinger right there, my friend. So, it was, where were we? We were back to the...
Kind of the
Sorry, I was laughing at my own jokes.
the culture around the match was there was a lot of things to love. Again, a lot of things to love about that match. It felt
It was electric in there with everything.
on a Tuesday night, man.
This cool sea layer, wherever it came from, rolled in, and
Nice-
part of it was
nice night for football.
temperature. The field was
Under the
very
lights.
tight. The ball was humming on that on that surface, and people were engaged. It was beautiful. It felt bigger than a 7th versus 9th place team in the West. That's for sure.
Yeah, and they did a good job of getting people in the building. Last week there was a little bit of problem with the
Korean
concert getting out.
yeah.
At the same time, the
K-pop.
match was starting, so we were looking around and we were like, what's going on here? But it filled up nicely for that one. This one, though, everyone was in their seats to get to see the great tifo, to get to like I said, have a bit of culture. You know, American sporting events can be so kind of sterile, even when it is a big game. It was kind of cool to do something special, to really roll out the red carpet for the night. And then Will Ferrell comes and he's the Falconer. Great way to start the game.
Is Sudeikis officially an LAFC fan? He's there.
I guess.
Games now?
I mean, if you give people a hat,
in a row.
that's all you got to do.
Let me tell you, man. That's what happened with me. I wore the hat and I was like, oh. It felt like you're baptized.
You walked outside and there's a beam of sunlight, and you were like, I should call Tom Penn.
Yes, you all want to be part of it. This was a.
What was it? So obviously, when there's home matches and you're calling it, I rarely get to get the vibe of with your +1, who was Heath Pierce this time. What was your guys' vibe in there in doing the commentary? What was kind of the big topics that you were talking about to kind of get us rolling? Because I'm always curious, because it's the commentary is one thing, and a lot of people would have seen this game through the commentary, so their ideas of the game might be through your guys' commentary.
Well, one thing I noticed heading into the game immediately, which I figured we could talk about it, was what Bob Bradley said, and how happy he sounded after the performance against Seattle. So much so that when we saw the starting 11, which was exactly the same,
Don't change a winning
he said,
team.
don't change it. They've changed things a lot. Even with Sifu back, Carlos Vela, they weren't going to start. He's not quite ready. You just got to look earlier in the season where it was the same thing: 15 minutes, 30 minutes
Yeah.
And I think he started the fourth game.
I did see a lot of people were like,
or third game he started.
it's do or die. You got. I'm like, it's not. As we're going to point out with the situation with the
It's not
possible
far-fetched to make a postseason
tiebreaker.
yet.
It's not. I mean, really, tie is not the greatest result, but not the worst. You still got to win. Regardless, you still got to win in Colorado, which is going to be tough. Colorado, by the way,
that is the toughest
undefeated
part.
in 15 home matches. They lost their first home match of the season and then went undefeated the rest.
It's tough. I mean, you could say altitude. These players shouldn't be affected by it, but
One game.
It is one, but it's still Colorado has a good home field advantage.
Yeah.
That's the toughest part of making the playoffs. If they beat Colorado, there's a very good chance for things fall into place. They're not like, high percentage results against you.
Mm-hmm.
Vancouver is at home, but they got to beat the Sounders, who can't be playing bad continuously.
Who are going for the top spot.
Yes, they have a lot to play for, and then let's get these.
You want to get it out of the way?
Out of the way. So
Okay, so what you would like from RSL is for them not to win any more games. Now they can draw both.
They can draw
That's
both. They can
fine.
still jump them.
But we could still jump them because one, our goal differential is superior. Two, we'll be level on wins. Those are the two big ones. There's more tiebreakers down the line, but these are the ones that seemingly are going to settle things.
But they have 2 games.
So they have one. As we're recording, will be tonight against Portland.
Tune in.
Who Portland's not secure of having that 4th spot, and which is a home game. So you would think Portland's going to go for it.
Portland has stuff to play for. They have teams on their own. So that's important for them, which is huge. And then they have to travel to Sporting Kansas City, and knowing Real Salt Lake,
will probably be going for the top spot.
Knowing Real Salt Lake,
they don't travel.
They don't travel. They don't play well on the road.
No.
So this Wednesday game really is it. If they tie this, you got to feel good about the facts, if LAFC wins, that they can jump RSL.
But again, they're not the only team that we're thinking about.
Yeah, if that goes off the plate, you have other options.
We've already brought it up. Vancouver plays Seattle. They'll host Seattle. Seattle probably going for the top spot. If they lose, draw is not good for us. But if they lose, we can still jump them with a win, regardless, because we'll have a better goal differential, for sure. Then you get to the one that everybody really probably cares about. Minnesota travels to the Galaxy for the final game of the season. They'll be playing at the Zax, kicking off. I like that they're going to kick off all the Western Conference games at the same time, Eastern Conference games all at the same time. So they'll kick off right at the same time. It doesn't really matter what happens in the game. You can still pass one of them regardless of who wins. Obviously, though, if they share the points, you could, one, knock the Galaxy out and catch, or knock the Galaxy out. I think, no, we wouldn't be able to catch Minnesota, but Galaxy get knocked out. Obviously, if the Galaxy lose, you can definitely jump them. But even if the Galaxy win, you can still get in.
Minnesota wins or ties, they're through.
Yeah.
The tie is enough for them.
The two big things we really want are win. You got to win.
Galaxy beat Minnesota, you can catch Minnesota.
Yes, you have to win against Colorado, and we would love Vancouver to lose that match. Everything else is gravy. Maybe we can knock out the Galaxy, maybe whatever. But if those two things happen, we're great.
And realistically, you could still finish as high as 5th. Really? Yeah. What a weird.
Which might be a trip to Portland.
It might be a trip to Portland, which would be fantastic.
Which would be interesting.
So it would be it'd just be great to be there. So it's very possible. But let's take a look at now what happened at Vancouver. 25 shots. This was a relentless attack. LAFC didn't strike early, which was something they did against Seattle, and that obviously put them. But they responded before the half. 11 shots on target, and this was pretty. It's hard to walk away and be frustrated. Yeah, there was a mistake. They paid a heavy price for the one mistake.
They didn't come out and get that early goal. They did create a couple of chances. I wouldn't say big chances early, but Vancouver really sold out on trying to turn them over in the midfield, and Raheem Edwards didn't quite understand that that's exactly what they were doing. Turned it over in midfield. Then, Brian White, who you know what he does. He runs channels. He's going to hold up play. He runs right past Murray. Murray, a little casual in his closing him down. Then Sebastian Biaga has a chance to then close down. Dahome overruns it, goes in with the wrong foot as well. Probably should have gone in right-footed, and he would have stayed in front of him. Then he does get a little bit unlucky, but he scores. I did see some people claim they would have liked to see Jamal Blackman, who I think had another good game, on the first pass. The Brian White pass, come out, smother that. I talked to somebody within the LAFC staff. They have kind of backed away from having super aggressive goalkeepers because there's been too many moments this season where a goalkeeper has gone flying by, and then you got defenders trying to fill in the gaps, and then the goalkeeper can't defend. The goalkeeper can't dive because there's.
And Blackman is not exactly Fabian Barthez coming.
Yeah, he's not.
Not just because he's 6'7". I mean, for nothing.
Yeah,
else.
I mean, not a lot of 6'7" guys are that athletic. So they actually like that. They would say Murray and Ibiaga should have sorted it out. In a lot of ways, they should have. So I'm not going to put that on Jamal for those people that are screaming right now at the podcast. Like, what about Jamal? I think don't turn the ball over. Raheem clearly passed a guy, but then just ran into a roadblock. Tighter to Brian White. Better challenge on Dahomey. It was just a cascade of errors. And then, but to your point, they really did, like, they then turned it up a notch. And that wasn't even when they got the goal. Because actually, it kind of lowered a little bit when they finally got the goal at the end of the half. They actually kind of came back to level. But right after that goal, they were peppering them.
The goal was obviously enormous because you need two. And now you go into halftime with needing one. Sorry about the math lesson there. I feel lowest common denominator stuff here. Obviously, you knew that. All the set pieces were really well delivered. Everything seemed threatening, including the corner kick, which led to the fall goal.
Mamadou great on set pieces. What do you think about Mamadou other than set pieces?
The runs were great, but they always hit a roadblock.
This is what I was saying on the post game. We always talk about like wingers, forwards, especially young ones. When are they going to find the end product? Right, it's the most important thing. That's what they're paid to do: score goals, end product. In a lot of ways, if a defender is going to decide to step forward in the play, you better have some kind of end product. And it just seems like he gets forward, just keeps he gets ahead of steam, and then has no clue what he's doing. And you would think that
Well,
moment.
He's trying to get all the way to the byline.
No, and I like that, but he needs to understand that it's that much more paramount when he loses the ball versus if Kim Moon-Wan loses the ball or if Chicho loses the ball. And I think I just haven't seen the lesson learned. He's too casual with his giveaways, which again was the biggest problem in that match.
I thought the back three in this game and last game were good.
I just
want to say it is a group because they've been heavily criticized, and there's always been a glowing mistake, and there was a mistake here, but there were a couple more. The one late in the second half that Blackman was able to snuff. There was also,
and regardless, their offense should have picked them up, right?
Yeah. So I mean, they have picked them up, but they do the safe plays more than they used to,
right? Which is kind of nice. Yep.
That's
and we have to give credit to Jamal Blackman. He's been very good.
He's been good.
Like, to your point, he snuffed out that Caicedo 1v1 out. That was when we were pushing numbers forward. We're like, guys, we have to get the win. Let's go. It could have been the end of the season. He made a really good play.
Remember that save.
Yeah.
Remember that save.
I just love he's put it all together, right? We were kind of
better last week was better, but he made more saves. I mean, he was locked in here.
He still made some big saves. Big save on a corner too.
Yep. And so easy when the ball's in the air, he just comes over. Boop.
Yeah.
That's always nice. Halftime comes. We knew we had some aces up the sleeve with Sifu. We knew Carlos Vela wasn't getting 45. He got about 25.
45 would have stretched him really thin.
Yes.
Because in the 25, he did a lot of work.
He may start Sunday and get that first 45. Maybe you save him.
Yeah, it really depends on how he's feeling after this. We know Carlos can play in a way that he can conserve his energy, but altitude for Carlos.
Yeah, and if you played two up front, I mean, Chicho didn't have a great game. But
didn't have a great game. Brian was better.
Brian was solid.
Brian's starting to put some things together.
Brian is progressing, and he's getting games.
He's deciding that, hey, I can do things other than just dribble guys.
Right.
And I really like that. Playoff guys, run past guys. He's very quick. So the ability to play kind of a wall pass and then just run by a guy, he's starting to piece it together and do things that are. There's just little things that you can do that make you dangerous. I mean, it's in a lot of ways what Brian White does. He just goes to the areas that are dangerous. It's what Bob says about Chicho. He just goes to the right areas. Brian sometimes shies from it. There's a lot of wingers that they're like, I like to dribble. I like to do things out in the fringes. No, I thought our positional play in and around the 18 was the best I've seen it in a while.
That's same power. One thing we also have to say is, like we talked about it, unbeaten, even going back to the Galaxy game. So was it six games? It's pretty good. So this is good. This is the best form of the season, and they've been pretty consistent moving forward. And I think Brian Rodriguez has to retain a spot. Now, do you go back to a 4-3-3? I wouldn't think so, and bring Carlos Vela. I think this is.
I think it's still in your back pocket.
I think it's in your back pocket. I agree with you.
Because to your point, that switch, bringing Sifu in, and changing the midfield dynamic, putting Raheem out wide left, worked.
Do you do that again? Same 11 Sunday?
So
Or Sifu comes in for Raheem?
I said this to you off before we started the podcast, and I'm going to say it. And I do love you, Raheem. I've given you the nickname Raz because I do love you. But I'm going to say this. Raheem Edwards is the amalgamation of LAFC season. Because Raheem Edwards can somehow hit the highest of highs and the lowest of lows all within one match. Sometimes all within 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Because, and it's some credit to him. He gives that ball away, they score. Then they turn the screw, and he was actually very good in helping them get forward. He was connecting some passes. It just, there's always something, right? And it feels like that's what we're saying about LAFC. You said it about the defense. There's always going to be one glowing mistake. We have yet to really see like a 90-minute performance. I think Seattle was the closest we've seen to a real.
But he did have a couple.
Yeah, there was the Seattle game. He decided to
one ball
fire one across his own 18, which was interesting. But I love Raheem.
Positive outweighs the negatives. I mean, it's a big mistake, but
this is a compliment.
You can't do what you want to do.
It's a compliment to Raheem because you look at him and you go, there's so much talent. He can play so many different positions. I mean, going from left wing back to like a free 8. I loved Bob's comparison of him to Edgar Davids. I had never thought about that, but it does make sense because Edgar Davids, the pitbull, and he was the pitbull for a reason. Like, you could not get away. If he got within a yard of you, he was not gonna leave your side until the ball left you or he took the ball from you. And a lot of times he'd take the ball from you and you'd be on the ground. So Raheem does that. He really harries guys. He's on top of that aspect of it. The thing people forget about Edgar Davids, great dribbler. Very technical dribbler. I remember he used to say it's from growing up in the streets of, I believe, Amsterdam. I know it was a Dutch city, but it was a poor neighborhood of a Dutch city, and they would play street soccer. Where basically, like, there's no point in passing the ball. You got to dribble by guys.
It's an incredible specialist. I have a photo of Edgar Davids. I got to dig it up.
With Edgar Davids?
Yes.
This guy. I don't have photos with anybody.
You got to ask for them.
I guess.
You told me that you saw John C. Reilly walking one day. You just go, hey, can I have a photo?
Ask for a photo. It's
so awful. It's awful.
I know. I don't want to do it. I get nervous.
Who did I have an opportunity to do that the other day with, and I passed on it?
I once saw Jay-Z in the restroom of Staples Center. That was not a good time to ask for a photo.
Oh, when I was at the SoFi, and I got a photo with Chad Smith, and then Taylor Hawkins walked in. I go, I can't do this twice.
Yeah.
I can't. I feel like just a nuisance at that point. So,
but to close my point, Raheem is so talented, but there's just those moments of, I don't know. Like,
so who's in that midfield on Sunday? I think it's still Raheem.
Really? I wouldn't be surprised if he starts at because he was very good at
empty the chamber.
Yeah, but when he moved over to left wing back, he actually provided some interesting dynamics. Because you thought they were playing with a 4 for a while, and I just told you no. Raheem
looked and I said it looked like a 4, and it was because Raheem was
finding ways to tuck in and really constrict that midfield. Which,
it looked like
Vancouver.
And I'm probably going to get a call from Bob because I heard the broadcast where you talking about. I go, Bob, when I saw it, there was 4 defenders there, and Raheem was moving in here.
Remember, Boss? Look, positionally,
potato.
Sometimes that's why he likes 5, because sometimes it can look like 4. Sometimes it's billed with 3. Sometimes it's 5. So I wouldn't be surprised if I think Cheeky stays. I think Latif keeps a spot. I think Sifu starts, and I wouldn't be surprised. I don't think Marco Farfan did anything wrong per se, but I like him off the bench. And maybe
I'll say Marco Farfan's 22. What he's done this season, the club has made him better.
Yes,
and he is now a serviceable fullback. That
imagine when he played with Portland.
He's left-footed too.
All he had to do with Portland was like defend. Then when we get forward, go down to the byline, cross it. And Bob's probably like, "That's cool. You know how to do that." There's a lot more in our playbook. So, and Bob always says they don't piecemeal it. Like, okay, learn this today. It's like, here's everything. Start doing it.
His future's a lot brighter because of this year, without question.
Mm-hmm.
So we have maybe Raheem on that left back and Farfan. That makes sense, and that brings way for that actually sounds like a pretty tasty 11 right there.
Yeah,
a hard-working
against a Colorado team that has a hard-working midfield led by revenge game Mark Anthony Kaye, who's been very good since leaving.
The Colorado 11, just to jump ahead, when you look at it, you'll go, okay, MLS veteran, campaigner.
It's a very
Rice.
MLS 11. It's not very forward-thinking, but that's kind of their MO, and it's worked for them, especially this season.
It's worked. They could be the top team in the West.
Mm-hmm. They still have an outside shot at it.
So they have a shot at that. And my tip, and I said this in our post-game show after the Vancouver game, just limit set pieces. Limit corner kicks.
Yes, of course.
You give them corner kicks, they will win this game.
Well, because Jack Price has
He's great at that.
Great set piece delivery, and then they've got some heavies. They got some tall guys. I want to talk about this. I said after the game, is Carlos Vela Chicho's kryptonite? Because
Bite your tongue.
well, the guy couldn't miss, and then 3 or 4 chances with Carlos on the field where you're like, what's going on? And I'm trying to remember back to that San Jose game, that first start for him where we were like, oh, is this not the guy we wanted? Then Carlos goes out and he just goes crazy. I don't think it's a real thing. It just feels weird though. Like all of a sudden the guy starts missing.
Well, he had the header at the end, which is still a tough header to do, but the way Chicho's scoring, he does that in his sleep.
Yeah.
He's in such a groove, and he just missed it. And I think he tried to swivel it to the far post. Almost he just had to
head it straight down and just
put it on frame.
Yeah, go with whatever happens. Look, Crepeau's been good, and maybe he does save it, but I think you just head that straight down. There's no chance.
Yeah. So that was the moment. But you're right. That is something.
It's not that he played bad. It's just look, and again, it's just a wild, random. It's not a real thing because I think he played well. The whole team was missing that final touch.
Well, great attacking players in any team. If you have more than two, there is a dilemma there. It's like the PSG situation. We have Messi, Neymar, and Kylian Mbappe. Someone's going to be kind of flipping his fingers, going, "Give me the ball."
Yeah,
you're not going to get it. I'm going to do another rudimentary. There's one ball on the field.
What do you think about Kylian Mbappe calling Neymar a tramp?
I don't even know what that means.
Is that a dirty word?
I think it's close to being.
Yeah, I mean,
tramp is like someone who just doesn't.
That dog was cute in that movie, right?
Yeah, you have to kick off your property leg. Get out of here.
Yeah.
I don't even know what that means, but that was hilarious.
Europe is like 50 years behind us in insults.
He's
tramp.
A tramp. Did it come from his lips or was it just a quote?
No, supposedly he has a cop to it and said, "Yeah, I did," but we sorted it out.
Okay.
Maybe I think in French he probably says it in a different way, and it means a lot. Yeah.
So
it has a "le" in front of it, as Jason said.
Let's talk about Carlos Vela.
Active in 25 minutes.
It was good. It was good. There was moments where it's not premium Carlos because he's still coming back from trying to get close to 90 minutes. There was moments where it felt like teams go, Carlos, take it away.
Yeah. There was a little deferring to him.
And that's
you want to get him touches. So like early, I would
but
say
you still want to be the team you were prior. You don't just stop that and go.
Because they were still creating chances even without Carlos. That's why it was such a good game, because they didn't. Carlos is a special talent. We all know that, right? You just want to take it over the edge, and maybe he does something special, like that free kick that goes inches wide. But I thought for the first 10 minutes he was on, they were like, let's just keep playing the way we're playing and add Carlos, and it looked good. And then it was like, oh no, we're running out of time. Give it to Carlos. Give it to Carlos. Give it to Carlos. Hey, is Carlos covered? Give it to Carlos.
He's like asking for guys, come here.
When we looked at the stats, and he was perfect, and we don't normally trump this up, but he was 22 for 22 in pass completion. So even with guys covering him, he was still able to move the ball along to other spaces, but maybe use him as a decoy sometimes. And
then sometimes he had to come get the ball all the way out. Remember that one time? What's he doing there?
Yeah.
But that's kind of where it started from. But it's going to be that way again. It's Carlos.
Well, you make concessions for certain players of a certain level. He's the Messi-esque guy, right? Messi wants to come deep to get the ball. No, you don't want him doing that 90% of the game. But if he wants to do it a couple times, you're not going to stop him because he knows what he's doing. And if it draws defenders out of areas that then Chicho can go into, you'll take it. But guys need to understand that sometimes he's the decoy in that. And you still have Chicho. You still have a Sifu. You still have a Brian Rodriguez. You still have the chance to bring a Danny Musovski into the match. So
he very late, but still made an impact in the 2 or 3 minutes he's there. Mm-hmm. And I would imagine he's going to see some minutes here against Colorado. We'll talk about the keys there, but let's just put together 11.
Okay.
Blackman,
easy.
Kim Moon-Hwan,
who's been very good as late too. We haven't talked about him enough. Because he's been just solid.
Those 5 stitches he took against Minnesota, I think.
Yeah.
Kind of got him locked
Robert
in.
Sabiga.
Yeah, Robert Sabiga.
That butcher.
Ozzy Alonso.
That butcher. Ozzy set up the whole thing too. It was like dominoes. He's like
100%. Same back three?
I think so.
So Tristan Blackman, not really an option here. You go with Ibiaga, Murillo.
You know what you're going to get from those guys.
Yep.
And I love Tristan.
And they're only going to get better.
But as of late, when he's come back from injury, you're like, he's getting subbed out at halftime. Maybe the injuries. I don't know.
Left back Raheem.
I think left back Raheem.
Midfield Cheeky, a little. I want to talk Cheeky really quick. Cheeky, Sifu, and
Latif.
Latif played another great game. Brian Chicho.
Yeah, I think you got to start Brian Chicho.
Cheeky Palacios, and we talked about this as well, making a monumental shift from left back to defensive midfielder. And that's, semantics, whatever you want to call it.
You go from being like, oh, the sideline's right there and balls are normally being played where the whole field's in front of you, to now you have to have 360 view. And that's the toughest thing to do, besides score goals in this sport, is to basically kind of have that eyes in the back of your head. And it's funny because scanning is something that's like, it's become this kind of buzzword. We say, players got to scan. Now look over your shoulder, this and this. And then I watch the games and I'm like, there's only a couple players doing it. So guys, it just kind of goes out the window with the intensity of the match and the speed of the match. It starts to get lost in a lot of guys' repertoire. But Cheeky seems to just seamless.
Yeah, and he's not doing these crazy balls. He knows he's keeping with it.
No, he's no Atuesta, but he's also Atuesta's no ball winner like Cheeky is.
Correct. And Atuesta, he's playing the Atuesta role. He looks like he's really enjoying it, which is fantastic. And now all of a sudden we wonder what the offseason is going to do with Atuesta, and does he make this move that was been discussed? And is Cheeky an option? You'd have to consider it. However, as a point you made, left backs are at a premium on the marketplace. And for Cheeky's international prospects at Ecuador, he'll have a better chance of making it as a left back than a central midfielder.
For the player from
central midfielders are very, very good, and there's plentiful.
From an aspirational career aspect, he should want to be the best left back he can be. From a team, Atuesta is interesting, right? Because he's not going to be considered young by any respect by any top leagues. And I know he's good enough to play in those top leagues, but it's about finding a buyer, right? Does he maybe think, he just had a child, congratulations to him and his partner, Mateus.
Danny is his wife.
Danny,
I meant to bring that in the broadcast. Congratulations.
Congratulations to him.
By the way, I couldn't bring up stories in the broadcast because it was there's no time.
Oh yeah, because
I have like 5 stories ready to go, and I'm like, I can't bring it up.
Well, because it was a good game, right? We need more games like that in MLS. We really do. That's what I said before the game. I was like, look, this isn't where LAFC wants to be, but games with everything to play for, where we know two teams are really going to go at it. They're both the hottest. I remember a lot of people saying, oh man, now Vancouver's going to come in here and they're the hottest team in MLS. I go, good. Let's see a good game. And LAFC gave us a good game. I think for a lot of people.
It's up to Vancouver too. They've really answered it.
Vancouver,
this is a team that's been kicked around. They didn't get to play at home for 2 years until recently. If we don't make the postseason, I am pulling for Vancouver in the playoffs.
Ryan Gauld has changed that team around. Ryan and Brian White. But I said to you though, if one of those guys gets injured, they're done.
There's no depth.
That's all they've got. And I think for a lot of people, this game, the weight of the 32 previous games are weighing on them. They can't seem to give LAFC the pat on the back. Yes, they didn't get the result, but man, they look good. But going back to Atuesta, so he has a child. He has a green card. Does he think that maybe the U.S. is a great place to raise his child? You get on-time payments for your contract, which he signed a new contract, and I would assume there's probably some caveats in there about making some more money. I don't know. Does he sit down and think to himself, I could be the greatest midfielder of all time in MLS? And he could. Think about it. I'm not saying he should just say like, I'm okay with this. This is my career. But be the best you can be in MLS, win championships, change the position. We don't have, who can you really point to that is a like for like that has played in MLS that is an Atuesta type? Because people will be Valderrama, that. I'm like, they're not, no.
He's not an Atuesta type, but Diego Valeri, who came a little later, not as young.
Diego might be
made a career here and is very, very
that happy. Might be that's what I'm saying. For Atuesta, he could look at Valeri and say, like,
and Valeri would come to him and say, dude,
guy's gotten paid a lot of money.
Life is good.
I would guarantee, I'm not sure if he's a drinker, but if he does go for drinks in Portland, he doesn't have to buy a drink ever.
We can eat.
Funnily enough, he's also not like this other Diego Chara, who has stayed with Portland for so long and has kind of carved out a niche as probably the best six. I don't love him, but probably the best 6 of all time in MLS. I'm just saying there's no like for like with the skills that Atuesta puts together. We need more midfielders like that because you're either a bruiser or you're a guy that doesn't play defense, and Atuesta seems to put all those together. This no inside information. I'm just saying it'd be interesting, and maybe Cheeky plays a 6 and Atuesta's more of a free role to get forward. I don't know.
The offseason for LAFC is going to be remarkable to see.
We're going to see LAFC 2.0. there's going to be, it's not a full overhaul teardown, because I'm actually optimistic that Carlos is going to be back as well. Chicho, obviously. There's going to be a lot of guys that are still going to be around, but it's time to churn it over and make some tough decisions.
And it could be fringe play. I mean, remember Andy Segura coming back and across the board. One thing about Atuesta, and as he gets a little bit older, maybe the European window closes a bit for the big money. But, Brazil, and that it's been brought up by him before.
I mean, that's why I asked you, is it real? Is it smoke and mirrors?
You're not going to sell it unless you're getting a check.
Is the money really moving around?
Mexico? Think about Atuesta down there.
Is Mexico really Brazil I could see him going to because it's closer to Colombia. Is Mexico really a step up for him?
No, but the money, right? It depends on the club.
Well, that's what I'm saying here. That's why if you're LAFC, you look at him, you sit him down, and go, what are your career aspirations? Would you think of being an LAFC lifer? And if so, how would you like to be compensated for that? And if it fits, Edward Atuesta is not a bad player to build around for the next 5 years.
So I think it would be an LAFC 2.0, but I think those pieces, especially with Carlos, you could look at a team that's very similar with Segura coming back. And
a spine of Segura, Atuesta, Carlos Chicho down the middle with maybe a cheeky, do
I start organizing the cup parade? I'm just kidding.
Hey,
we might have a cup parade this year. It's still alive.
True, and we got too excited going into this year, so maybe let's just pump the brakes on that.
Okay.
But there'll be a very good look. You want a team that plays this type of football you want to see, that excites you when you come to the stadium. You know you have a real chance to win, and you have a chance at winning the cup. I think too many people get locked into the top five mentality of I support Barca, I support Chelsea, and we win every year. That's not this league.
Sunday, the final game of the season. I will say this about clubs, like you can watch it at 3 o'clock Pacific time on my KCOP.
You get to call the game. Not taken from you this time.
Not taken. I saw Callum Williams, who does Minnesota, do a tweet saying, yeah, we lost the game. I actually reached out to him. I know the feeling, man. It stinks, but you had to know it was coming.
Yeah.
Have your laptop out, because all the games on the Western Conference will start at the same time. The East have their window. Take a look. Even put it on ESPN. They'll have decision day where they'll bop around so you can see the results. It's going to happen fast. LAFC could be in or out. I will say this about a club that since decision day could have been eliminated as early as San Jose. They're hanging around. And when you hang around, you put yourself in a position to slip in. I've seen it in every sport over and over again.
Despite the 1-1 draw, they're playing very well.
They're playing great.
They're giving themselves a chance, which is all. Which again, all we ask for.
Vancouver was the hottest team in the West, and LAFC
neutralized them,
and hammered them with chances. You just couldn't score the second goal.
Yep.
So we're here, Sunday. Get locked in, enjoy it, get your friends over, and then you have a break. Possibly wait for a couple weeks for a playoff game announcement. It's certainly possible. Inside LAFC, the Max and Vince podcast, a.k.a. MVP. Rate, review, subscribe, download, and tell a friend.
See you next week.